Hello, and welcome to another episode of Soap Goes to the Oscars. This is episode 37, and it is the first episode for a new round of Oscar movies from 1934. As I think I probably mentioned at the end of the last episode, 1934 is the first year where it's only 1934 movies. So from 1927 to 1933, it was 2 years worth every time. But this is the first year. And then obviously going forward to present, that it's just 1 year's or just movies released from a single year. So this is the seventh Oscar ceremony. And there are a total of 12 movies, but one of them, The White Parade, is not available anywhere. So I'll only be reviewing 11 this time. What else? And this ceremony aired on February 27th, 1935. And this is also the first year where the Hays Code was in effect from 1934 to 1968. The Hays Code was in effect, which was basically like a censorship code and industry guidelines. So a little bit from the Wikipedia page from that is the Motion Picture Production Code, or the Hays Code, was a set of industry guidelines for the self-censorship of content that was applied to motion pictures released by major studios in the United States from 1934 to 1968, also popularly known as the Hays Code after Will H. Hays, president of the Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America from 1922 to 1945. Under Hays' leadership, the MPPDA and the Motion Picture Association adopted the production code in 1930 and began rigidly enforcing it in 1934. The production code spelled out acceptable and unacceptable content for motion pictures produced for a public audience in the United States. From 1934 to 54, the code was closely identified with Joseph Breen, the administrator appointed by Hays to enforce the code in Hollywood. The film industry followed the guidelines set by the code well into the late 1950s, but it began to weaken owing to the combined impact of television, influence from foreign films, controversial directors such as Otto Preminger, pushing boundaries, and intervention from the courts, including the U.S. Supreme Court. In 1968, after several years of minimal enforcement, the production code was replaced by the MPAA film rating system. So when we get to 1968, we'll talk about that a little more, but there's some more information here about the Hays Code. Maybe I'll give a little bit out in each episode. There's a lot, so I'm not going to do it all here, but maybe we'll do that going forward. Anyway, this movie that I watched was called One Night of Love. As I said, is a 1934 movie released by Columbia Pictures, directed by Victor Schertzinger, written by Charles Behan, Dorothy Spear, James Gow, S.K. Lorne, Edmund H. North, produced by Harry Cohn, starring Grace Moore, Tullio Carminati, Lyle Talbot, cinematography by Joseph Walker, and edited by Gene Milford. So this one I rented on Amazon, and it was $3.99. I had some credits, I think $3 worth, so it ended up being like $1.09. So I started watching this one, and I typically watch everything now with subtitles. New stuff, old stuff, British stuff, American stuff. It doesn't matter. Partly because like my parents live with us now and they use subtitles, but also my hearing's getting worse. So it makes it easier. I don't always read them. Just depends on how, hard it is for me to hear, but they're always on basically. So I immediately turned on the subtitles for this, but they weren't really coming up at first. And then all of a sudden I saw one that said speaks Arabic dialect or something like that. And I was like, hold on a second. What? Because they were not, in fact, speaking that dialect. So I let it play a little bit longer, and the words that were coming up in the subtitles were not at all related to this movie's. I started it last night. I'm recording this on August 17th, 2024. I started it last night, but couldn't get through it. It was late and I was a little tired, so I stopped it and I finished it this morning. I was like, let me try them again. So I put them on, and honestly, the subtitles I think might have been more entertaining than the movie, but it appeared to be there was a character or name mentioned in the subtitles, Karak Khan, I think. And I looked it up, and I think there was a 1963 movie called Karak Khan, and so it may have been dialogue from that. I'm not sure, but it was not helpful in this. That was an issue when I started it last night. It was late and everybody was asleep, so I didn't want to blast the volume. But I was having trouble hearing what they were saying in the beginning, and I was almost immediately kind of taken out of it and was like, this I don't know about this one." So I watched it this morning when I was able to turn the volume up and was able to hear things better. And there were moments that I liked better, but overall, not great. I think I gave it 2.5 stars on Letterbox. That may even be being generous. It was not terrible. It was just, I don't know. It didn't do anything for me. So the story of this one is there's an opera singer, Mary Barrett. She leaves to study music in Milan. Her family's disappointed. She gets a job at a cafe where Giulio Monteverde, a famous vocal coach, hears her sing. He promises to make her a star if she will allow him to control her life. And immediately he says there can be no love between them. So he can't fall in love with her, or she can't fall in love with him. His last student did, and he threw her out. So it then proceeds to go through like a montage of him being kind of a misogynist dick to her. And I get it. He's training her. He wants her to be the best opera singer in the world. So he's being a bit harsh on her, but it was kind of a lot. So she's like training with him for years and kind of begins to tire of him. And an old friend of hers comes to visit and proposes to her, and the guy won't let her get married, the vocal coach. So, she sends that guy away, the guy that proposed to her. And then it continues on. Obviously, they're going to fall in love. So that's basically where it goes. He's the one that has to admit that he's in love with her. And then there was his old student kept showing up at different points. And so then the Mary Barrett here started getting jealous of her, and so left to go perform at the New York Met, which he says she's not ready for yet. But the Met wanted her, so she's mad at him, and he has to try to win her back. And shows up at her. She's very nervous at her first performance at the Met, and he shows up, and she sees him, and she's able to go on. And there were just two. This movie was short. It was 83 minutes, which is great. But there were two just full on opera numbers. There's one from Carmen, and then one, I can't remember what the last time, Madame Butterfly at the end. So I just tuned out. Like the music's good and everything. The singing was good, but I'm like, am I watching the opera or am I watching a movie here? So, yeah, I didn't love this one. It's not a good start to this round of Oscars, but hopefully there will be some better ones. And here's some fun behind the scenes facts. Moore's recording. So Moore is Grace Moore, who played Mary Barrett. Moore's recording and performance of Un Bel Di aria, the Un Bel Di aria from Madame Butterfly, did not go smoothly as she had trouble hitting the high notes. According to a later biography, she flew into a rage and blamed the orchestra. However, when studio boss Harry Cohn asked Columbia music director Morris Stoloff what the problem was, Stoloff replied, "There's nothing wrong with the orchestra. These are the original Puccini orchestrations." Moore was then told that either she went back to the recording stage or she would be responsible for paying the day's salary for the entire orchestra. And she returned and recorded the aria. She had some funny moments. There was like a few little funny moments between her and the coach there, but yeah, just overall, not my favorite. So hopefully this sets the bar kind of low for me on this round, and then the next ones will be better. Not exactly sure which one I'm going to watch next. The next shortest one is Here Comes the Navy. And then there's The House of Rothschild, which is just a minute longer than that one. So might be one of those. We'll see. But I think that's all I've got for this one. See you next time.